How does race and ethnicity affect your genealogy journey? It does. Whether you are Caucasian or not, you might discover that you've had somebody that enslaved others, or you may descend from somebody that was enslaved. You may be Irish or Italian, and your family may have suffered some persecution when they first came to the United States or to another country. How does race affect discovering your family and finding your ancestors? Well, I have the chance to sit down with Danielle Romero, who started a YouTube channel, NYTN. It's an amazing channel, and she has documented her journey as she's discovered her family, and she's an amazing ethnic mix. And so she's found out a lot about how different races have been affected through history, and it's really affected her. So I really think you're going to really enjoy hearing her perspective, how she started her channel, why she started her channel. It's an amazing channel. She's got over 125,000 subscribers and millions of views. I'm so excited for you to meet Danielle. I'm Aimee Cross, and I'm here to take your genealogy to the next level. And this is something that I really do think is an important thing that we understand and talk about, because race affects your family history. It affects your genealogy journey. I want to thank you so much for doing this with me. You're such an angel. I love your channel. I love what you're doing. And you're resonating with people that I think have not been so connected to their ancestry. And that's what I really love about your channel, because you just come across so authentically, but you tell a real story, and it's a difficult story. So I'm just so happy to have you here. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you. And I'm so glad to do it, because you've definitely helped me along the way. I've definitely reached out and be like, can you help me with this? I don't understand this, because I'm not a genealogist. And I think that is what makes me so excited, though, is that you don't have to be a genealogist to start, and that there are people that can help you when you get stuck, like you. But you don't need to have that to begin the process, because I definitely still don't. So,
but you've really connected with people. Why do you think your channel is connecting like it is?
To be honest, like totally honest, when I first started doing the family heritage stuff, I was, before even the channel, I was laser focused on trying to find my Indigenous roots. That was like the most important thing to me. I didn't think anything else could be interesting, to be honest. And I remember sitting down talking with my husband, and he was like, I mean, you may have those roots, and I do, but it's like, just don't worry about trying to be a thing. Like, just be yourself. Like, just be open about the whole process. And I didn't believe him. I really felt like it couldn't be interesting if I was just doing it openly. You know, I had to have an angle. I had to have a thing. But I decided to take his advice, because he's very rarely wrong. And it's been so freeing, because I think a lot of the content I'm drawn to on YouTube when I do watch, it's not really polished. It's, just people existing. And I think especially post-COVID, I didn't think I would have these like connections to people I'd never met on YouTube. But like during COVID, we watched a lot of people on YouTube, and I was just drawn to the authenticity. And it's one thing to be a viewer and appreciate it. It's really scary to make content and try to just be yourself. And I'm like, and that's been taking time. Even when I go back and watch my older videos, I'm dying inside. Inside, like it's what I mean. Like, there's for so many reasons. So it's a process.
I can so relate to that. The first few videos that I edited, especially, it was painful. And it is
brutal.
Really scary to put yourself out there. I want to dive into what brought you into this. Why did you even I know it all started with finding Lola, but tell me more about why you decided to document it on a YouTube video, and tell me more about what even got you going on this.
So the first time we were going to Louisiana, I had like glorified this moment as a New Yorker. I couldn't even imagine what Louisiana meant. It wasn't exactly what I had pictured, but I had been wanting to go. And so we finally were able to go. All my kids were like sleeping through the night. We could get my in-laws to watch them for the weekend, so we could go. My husband surprised me, and he bought a camera. And neither of us know how to use the camera. We do now, we kind of do now, but we didn't then. And he was like, you just should start recording while we're going down. And I'm like, for what? I'm like, just have it, because you've been talking about this since I met you in high school. And so we started recording, and then we went down again, and I met family, and I was like, well, I want to record what they say, because I don't want to lose it. I want to be able to tell my mom, my aunts. And as I was like getting the pieces over there, when I would come home, I was like, well, I really want, and this was during COVID. This is when COVID started. This when we got back, and I wanted to interview like my Grammy's brother and my Grammy, who was still alive at the time. And so I was in Nashville, and everybody else was in New York for the most part. And so I started having my mom do Marco Polo with my Grammy, like ask her these 3 questions and send it back, and doing meetups on Zoom. I recorded them all. And I just started to realize like this is a big puzzle and I need a lot of voices to kind of help me fill it out. And I don't know what made me start doing it on YouTube. I couldn't even tell. I think probably just because I couldn't figure out how to send my family a file that big on an email, because I'd like want to send them stuff. I was like, this doesn't work. And YouTube was free to upload. So, and I was pretty shocked when the first real thing like took off. Like I was pretty stunned that anyone who didn't know me was watching it.
That's so funny, because you have such a huge audience and they're so committed to you too. I love to read some of the comments that you get in your videos, because you've just got a lot of support in that journey. Well, tell me more about, I know that you have a beautiful ethnic mix, which is really kind of unusual. And so a lot of us have a more complicated ethnic mix, but you can touch base with so many different ethnicities, and that's been part of your journey. What have you discovered as you've gone through this process, as you found Lola, and as you then moved on to other aspects of your family history?
I would say that just personally for me, I love reading books. I love stories. I like nonfiction, but I really like getting fiction, stepping into this world. And I feel like when I finish a good book, especially if it's fiction, it leaves me with a better insight of who I am or people around me. And I feel like that's what a good story does. And I love stories. And I remember when I was in high school and I wasn't sure if I wanted to be an English major or a history major, because I was like, I love stories, but I loved history. And I was like, and never between, they'll never meet, which is not true, right? Because there's a lot of overlap. But I didn't learn history with the story side. And I think for a lot of people, that has been really eye-opening. I think you have a textbook, you only have this much space to tell the story, for good or for bad. And I think kind of getting more perspectives on that story, hearing more people share things. And I also would say in America, there's just a lot of hurt that has been passed down generationally, and and not to even pass judgment on who should feel this way or not, but there just is. And I think having just more of a space where we can just like, and this happens. Yeah. Like I don't have a solution for it, but this is what happened, and just letting people feel like their stories are being told, I think is really healing. And it also brings out a lot of emotions, not all nice ones, which is okay though. I think that's part of the healing process, and it's something I didn't know that I needed. And I'm happy to hear that it's something a lot of us can do together.
I love to hear people's stories. I love to hear about where they came from, because it affects us more than we realize. And I think, and it gets passed down through our generations in ways that we aren't aware of. Tell me a little bit more about what some of those things are that you discovered that you weren't expecting, and how that affected you.
Well, I think for one, I mean, this may not be exactly what you mean, but I grew up with a really strong sense of just being Irish and French and Italian. Like that was just, and I remember writing reports, I still have them in 4th grade, about like my French, my Irish heritage, and now looking back on it and just realizing like so much was left out, and why it was left out and why that's important. And again, like I don't ever walk around saying I'm a woman of color and I was oppressed and all that. Actually, I wasn't, but I do think everybody has the right to know where they come from, and they need to know why family members have behaved certain ways, and kind of piecing that stuff together. And so that has been pretty eye-opening. It's helped me understand my grandmother, who's now passed away, because I remember when I first started this journey thinking, wow, I guess she just straight up lied to us, and being really frustrated, and she had already passed away and I couldn't work through that. And as I've gotten more context on, for instance, where her mom ended up moving to as a young girl, Monroe, Louisiana. I was just talking with my cousin yesterday about this. Monroe, Louisiana was in the South during the time that my family was there. It was a time where the 5th highest number of lynchings in the South. That was one of the most dangerous places to be. And of course, you're not going to be someone that's like kind of proud to pass things down. You grew up in an era where you wanted to survive. And so now I'm in an era where I don't feel like I need to survive, but I don't have any information because of that. And I think it's that kind of that nuance where I've been kind of just sitting in that space. I don't want to claim something that didn't happen to me, but also, and I think this is true for a lot of different, ethnic groups and family stories. Like you're saying, things affect you, and sometimes it takes a while to kind of figure out what that was and how.
Yeah, definitely. This really has been a genealogy journey for you. You've really discovered so much about your family and a lot that you weren't expecting to discover. So if you haven't checked out our channel, you really need to, and you can see some of these things that have really made a difference in your life. But can you kind of summarize a little bit for my audience? What
Yeah.
are the things that you've really taken away from this experience?
Oh, I have so much. I think one is not in condemnation to myself. I have like kind of shamed myself a little bit of like, I wish I had started this sooner. And so I always encourage people to just start talking to your older relatives. Like that's just a huge takeaway. And I talk to my kids. I mean, I always have, like we just talk about stuff all the time in our house, but they know a lot, and just it's what's normal. Because I feel like in America, it's not as normal as other cultures to have conversations about the relatives. We're pretty disconnected. I don't know what the statistic was. It was just basically a lot of people don't know their great grandparents, and I didn't know their names. Not like I knew them personally, but know who they are.
Yeah.
Which is sad. It's sad to me to hear that. So that was one thing, is I realized the value of just starting early and just trying to document as much as you can, because you never know when you don't have access to that information. More personally, one of my takeaways, I think that there is a divide in our country that I wish desperately that I could heal it. I don't know what the healing looks like. I feel like we're divided along so many lines. And I think that a lot of the stories, especially my family, have shown me that a lot of these lines aren't as concrete as I thought that they were. When I'm seeing the news, they're talking about, whites are saying this about blacks and the brown ball stuff. And then I look at my family tree and I'm like, well, none of these labels really apply. And so if we extrapolate from there and say, oh, well, what if we really stopped looking at each other these ways? Because like I said, I didn't use those labels, but I didn't have a problem with them. I thought, oh, yeah, well, there's white people, there's black people, there's brown people. And then once I started doing the work, especially, the Italians or in Louisiana, and you realize this is complex. It hasn't always been the way that we talk about it. And I think that's been really eye-opening, is to, doing your own family history. I think is the greatest American history lesson really you could get, or wherever country you're in. I feel like I understand more about our nation just by trying to understand my family story. And it's humbling, it's sad, and it's also exciting, because I feel like maybe there is a backdoor way to bringing healing to our country, and maybe it's through family stories. I don't know.
I agree with you. I really do. And I really love the fact that your channel is bringing in younger people, because I also agree with you about get those stories while you
Please.
can.
Yes.
Because so many people don't. And then they get into genealogy and maybe a little bit later in life. And the people that could have told them the answers to their questions are no longer here. So I love that. So thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for sitting down with me. You're
Oh,
just
you're
amazing and
welcome.
such a wonderful
Thank you,
person. Thank
Aimee.
you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'd just like to thank you for watching this video. I think people like Danielle are the reason why I love doing what I'm doing. They inspire me and they help me to see that finding your ancestors really does change your experience in this world, and it helps you relate to other people better. And so I love that. Thank you so much, Danielle, for doing that. This video right here is a video about how to understand your DNA test results, because for a lot of people, your initial experience with genealogy is taking a DNA test. So what do you do with the results when you get them? Hope that helps you. Have a great day.